Okay, hello, good afternoon. Hope our day is going well. I just want to say thank you so much for joining this training today. And going to be an impactful session. So I'm Miss Olajimoke, the founder of Olive Grove Educational Consults, and I'm going to be leading us on this training, Blocks to Bytes training, and it's a training that helps to integrate our conventional hands-on learning with digital learning. So we're going to start this section now, and I'm going to be sharing my screen. So please do well to follow, take notes, and at the end of the training, you can always ask your question if you have any. So thank you so much, and I hope you will follow suit. Right. So welcome to the Blocks Bytes training, and this is a training for integrating hands-on learning with digital innovations. Now, one thing we have to understand about early childhood education is that it involves the use of hands. So what that means is that for children to learn better, for children to learn well, they have to do something with their hands. As Maria Montessori said, she said the hands are pathway to human intelligence, and that children are sensorial explorers. So what that means is that for children to learn effectively, they have to they have to they have to work with their hands, they have to work with their environment. But on the onset of technology, we cannot say because children are sensory explorers or that children work best with their hands, we should not now be able to accept or integrate technology into our daily learning. So one thing we need to do as educators, especially for the early years, now this is not restricted to early years teachers or trainers. This is also useful for parents that have younger children within the age of about 2 to 7, thereabout. So this is a very good means, and that's why this training is very important, because in as much as we want our children to be to be problem solvers and the rest, we also want to integrate technology, but at the same time we want to be able to strike a balance. So if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a school owner, this training is very important for you. So let's go on. Now, understanding children learning style. One thing we need to understand about children, specifically about learners, is that for us to be able to reach them at the point they are, for us to be able to bring our lesson to them, we must also understand their learning style. Because if you don't understand the learning style of your learner, then there's going to be a problem. The person is not going to really accept the message or the information you are bringing to the person. So children learn in different ways. Number one, we have visual learners. Now, visual learners are learners that learn through image and through demonstration. So that means they learn best with what they see, right? They don't just learn by talking. They need to see how this is done. And that is why when you look at the screen, the visual has the eye. That's to represent learners that need to see before they can learn best. We also have auditory learners. These are learners that learn through sound or through storytelling and the rest. So they learn best by listening, right? So children in this category, they learn best by listening. Then we have the kinesthetic learners. Now, kinesthetic learners are learners that learn best through their hands or through work with their hands. And one thing I want us to also understand is that children within the age of about 18 months to 6 years, they learn best through their hands. So what that means is that most children are kinesthetic learners. So you can see a blend. You can see of kinesthetic learners and auditory learners. You can see kinesthetic learners and visual learners. So one thing we must have an understanding is that children around this age group learn best with their hands. But it doesn't mean that we're going to kick off the other two. We must always find a way to blend it. So in a typical classroom or in a typical setting, or if you have different number of children, you must be able to observe their learning style. If you don't come to the understanding of their learning style, there's going to be a problem, because they will not be able to grasp the concepts in the best way. So understanding children learning style, you should understand that children could be visual learners, could be auditory learners, and kinesthetic. And note, children within the age of about 18 months to about 7 years are kinesthetic learners. In fact, one amazing thing about children is that children begin to learn from the onset of from the time which they are given birth to, right? So you just give birth to a child today, the child's mind is absorbent, so he receives every information that is going on around his surrounding. And that is why I note this at the beginning. I said children are sensorial explorers, meaning they explore their surrounding, and the only way they can explore their surrounding is work with their hands to be able to interact with their environment. Okay, so what is hands-on learning? Just like the way I explained kinesthetic, let me take it back a bit. We said kinesthetic learners learn best through hands-on experience. So what is now this hands-on experience? Now, hands-on is also known as experiential learning, and it involves engaging children in physical activities that allows them to explore concepts through direct experience. So what that means is that this is when children are able to have physical interaction with their environment. This is the best method in which children can learn. So the Montessori approach is prime example of this method, because it showcases, or it gives room for the children to explore their environment using their hands. So learning through physical interaction and direct experience, the child needs to experience it individually, right? So we have examples, we have building blocks, we have sensory play, nature exploration, and the use of Montessori materials. If you look at the picture we have here, we can see these are materials that help the child to be able to learn with his hands. We have it ranging from colors, they learn about dimensions, they learn about letters, they learn about numbers, they learn about anything at all is with their hands. So we have different kind of materials that they use for this. But one thing we have to understand about hands-on learning is that it is a medium in which a child is able to express himself. The child is able to learn using physical means of physical interaction. Now, benefits of hands-on learning. Why is hands-on learning important, especially for early years? Number one, enhanced engagement. What does it mean? Physical interaction with objects helps to stimulate curiosity and creativity. I posted recently on my LinkedIn, and I spoke about my niece. I'm very fond of her, so I got her a birthday gift, and the birthday gift I got for her was a puzzle. Now, this puzzle is a means for her to be able to interact with her environment. I observed that she worked with this puzzle. Her birthday was last year, so I got the gift last year, October. So that means from October to this time, she has been working with that material. So what it means is that she arranged the puzzle, she dismantled it again, she arranges, she keeps on doing that over and over and over again. And when I observed her work with that material, with that puzzle, I was wowed. I was wowed with what she did over time. She began to she numbered the puzzle, it's about 30 pieces puzzle. So she numbered it number 1 to 30. That was a wow for me, because she was able to think, after so much engagement with the material, she was able to think about a better way, an easier way to be able to solve that problem. And that is one thing that hands-on material do for a child. The child consistent working with the hands. It helps to increase critical thinking. It helps increase problem solving skill. And then, if I'm to get her another puzzle, all she needs to do is arrange it the first time, number it, and the next time she's going to be solving it, she's not going to take so long time the way she did the first time. So you can see it enhances what? Engagement, and it stimulates curiosity. It stimulates problem solving skills. It stimulates critical thinking, and that's what we can see as one of the benefits of hands-on learning. Number two is better retention. So what this means is that it helps to reinforce concepts. Now, the concept of the puzzle that we are using as a yardstick is that the more she does that activity, the more better she is at doing it. So that's one thing that hands-on learning do. It gives the child or give that individual learner the opportunity to redo and redo and redo. And this continuous redoing helps to better retention. And let me tell you one thing, is that children love repetition. They love repetition. They like to do something over and over again. So once you have a child and then you observe that the child is doing a particular thing over and over, please don't stop that child, because this is a moment where at each time the child repeats that activity or that process, the child is learning something new. He's learning something new. The more he repeats it, the more the information is being reinforced in his mind, and the more it yields more information for that child. Now, another point is that hands-on learning helps to develop motor skills. Now, motor skill has to do with the development of the muscles, especially the muscles of the hands. So when a child does hands-on activities, it helps to build the muscles of the hands. It helps to build fine and gross motor skills, because at this point the child begins to migrate from working with cylinders. Child begins to write. And when the child is active with his hands, writing is no longer a problem. It is the old method that the teacher have to hold the child's hands to be able to write. No, we don't do that anymore. But what we do is that we engage the child with his hands. When the child's hands is engaged, the muscles are being exercised. So when it's time to write, the muscles of the hands will not be aching the child to hold the pencil, and then the child begins to write, freely. So the era of holding the child's hand to write, no, we don't do that anymore. But instead, we give the child the opportunity to work with his hand, and it helps with the fine and the gross motor skill. Lastly, it encourages problem solving and critical thinking. I'm sure I've already hit the nail on the head for this one. Looking back at my little niece, problem solving skill, she was able to think that, this can be done in a more easier way, right? So she was able to solve the problem, and she was able to think, critically. She was able to think that, if I number this puzzle, it's going to give me a better way in arranging it. So now to figure out a system on our own. So that is one of the key benefits of hands-on learning. So in as much as we've seen the benefits of hands-on learning, now let's mess up today, which is digitization in years. Now we'll get to the teaching and learning. This is the word I want us to note there. Using technology to support. So once we introduce digitization, especially in early years for children, we have to come up with the standpoint that this technology is to support the learning process, not to replace it. Right? Is to support. So if you are going to be giving a child a tablet, let that tablet reinforce, let it support the learning process. Let's not replace that learning process, right? So if you look at the picture we have here, this is the picture of a child using a tab, reinforcing a lesson that has already been taught. So examples of digital tools, we have digital storytelling, we have educational apps, and we have augmented reality. So we're going to dive into that one after the other. So digitization can be used in storytelling. It can be used to enhance literacy, that's literacy skills. It can be used to enhance numeracy skills. So digital tools can complement hands-on learning without replacing them. So that is actually the goal of this training, is that digital tool should enhance, should support hands-on learning, especially in early years, not replace them. When you look back, when we're looking at the learning style in children, we said children within 18 months to 7, they learn best through their hands. So we're not going to take that part out because of the onset of technology, no. But what we do is that we embrace technology and find a way that it balances up the normal hands-on learning in children. So benefits of digitization or digital learning, especially in early years. Number one, accessibility. What do we mean by accessibility? It provides a wealth of learning resources beyond the traditional classroom. So you have access to wealth of knowledge, especially teachers or parents. You have opportunities to bring to your child, information from so many places. When I was doing my training on early years Montessori education, one thing that our tutor usually says that the ability of the child or the intelligence of the child will show the intelligence of the teacher. So what that means is that whatever you bring to the child is what the child will work with and then begin to develop hers or his. So when you include digital learning, you have access to a wide wealth of knowledge. And so when you bring that thing to the child, you are also increasing the child's ability, far beyond the classroom, far beyond the child's environment. There was a point we were learning about cultures, and we're talking about different cultures of the world. Now imagine a teacher who is not vast, who has not embraced this technology. The teacher is going to limit what the child can learn. So when we embrace this digitization, especially in early years, we also help the child because it's going to increase what the child can learn. Number two, engagement. It enhances engagement. What that means is that interactive content captures child's attention and makes learning fun. For example, now we have so many storytelling apps. I'm going to be sharing some apps, useful apps at the end of this lesson. We have so many storytelling apps. We have number apps. We have number games. We have letter games. All these things helps to make learning fun, helps to make learning interactive, helps to make learning engaging for the child. Another benefit of digital learning is that it helps adapt to the child's learning pace. It helps adapt to the child's learning pace. So it's a form of personalized learning. So what that means is that, remember when we started, we said that we have to understand the child's learning style. That's the first thing we need to do. Now, when we understand the child's learning style, we are able to tailor the child's learning style to a particular kind of app. So what that means is that if I say I have a digital tool on literacy, and my child is still learning the letter A, for example. Now, I can bring in so many tools to reinforce the concept of A. We have letter games, we have tracing games, we have so many things to be able to reinforce the concept letter A. We get it. So this is already tailored to the child's personal learning. So the child is able to go along his own pace and not rushing up the child. Oh, my child is supposed to have learned A to Z by now. And all. Yes, we should have a yardstick, we should have a curriculum, but at the same time, we have to also work with the child's pace. Now, another point is collaboration. So what this means is that digital platform enables interaction with peers in a guided learning environment. It can also work for early years, right? It can also work for early years. Bring them into a community, digital community, where they're also able to meet with other learners and they are learning on the go. Lastly, efficiency. Digital assessment tools also help teachers track progress and provide timely feedback. So what that means is that this is an opportunity for teachers to also be able to track each child, you know, as each child is going, as each child is working. In Montessori, one thing we stand for is individualized learning. We stand for individualized learning. That means every child at his own pace, and the teacher is able to track. The teacher is able to see the progress of each of the child. So these are some of the benefits. We have more, but these are some of the benefits of digital learning. In as much as digital learning is good, we've seen some of the benefits, we also have the challenges that it can cause if it is not well utilized or if it is not well managed, especially for early years or for children within that age group. Number one, if it is abused, it reduces the sensory and motor development. Remember, when we were looking at the benefit of hands-on learning do, is that it helps to develop the fine muscles of the hands. So as long as the child continues to work with his hands, the more it is being refined, the more it is being good, the more it is being used. But once technology is not being balanced, it reduces the ability of the child to use his own hands, and hence reduce the motor skill development. It reduces the motor skill, it reduces the ability of the child to be able to work with his hands effectively. That's one. Number two, it also affects the sensory skill of that child. Remember, children are sensorial explorers. What that means is that they explore their environment with their touch, their eyes, with their tastes, everything, their five senses. So once digitization is not managed, especially for children within that age, it affects their sensory skills. It affects their ability to be able to work with their environment. That their sensory skills, sensory motor, it is being affected at that particular time. Number two is that it can decrease social interaction. One thing that hands-on learning do for children is that it helps enhance social skills. It means that as the child works with the hands, is working with other children, it's not just glued to the screen, and so it helps enhance social skills. But when these digital tools are not balanced in such a way, it can decrease a child's social skill, and that is why what some parents do that is not really, really acceptable, especially for children within this age, is because we observe parents maybe in a gathering, or the child is crying, we don't want the child to cry, and then we just give the child our phones and it's just playing game on the phone. No, that's really, really wrong, because the child will be amongst people. The time the child is supposed to learn is social, the child is on the phone, and that's not really good enough for that child, and the child begins to go with such habits which will not affect the child on the long run. So one thing that we need to balance, especially when we are integrating technology, is that we must balance the issue of social interaction. Even if you are going to be using a technology per se, you should make it as interactive as possible. Let the child be able to communicate. Even when the child is using the tablet, let the child be able to communicate with you as the parent, or communicate with other learners in the classroom. It shouldn't just be, self-centered and all. Next is that it may shorten the attention span. Passive screen time may lead to reduced focus it helps to reduce focus and on non-digital activities. So what that means is that once the child is glued to the screen, other activities that is supposed to help the child, remember repetition. We spoke about repetition earlier. Other thing that the child is supposed to be doing to help enhance the critical thinking of that child, it is being reduced. And once the child is glued to that screen, it reduces the child's attention span. One thing that physical materials help to do to a child is that it helps to increase the concentration level of that child. So once the child is glued to the screen, the child gets to a level of concentration that is now negative instead of positive. It is now negative because it is now stemming to the screen, which for that child at that particular time, it can cause a lot of health concern. And that leads to our next point. Health concern. Extended screen time may cause eye strain. It can cause poor posture and can also cause sleep disturbance. So once this is not well managed, it has a lot of health challenges even to the child. So we can view this picture by the side. You can see a lot of younger children, but they are not interactive. They are also glued to the screen. The one that haven't caught my attention is the second boy there. You can see how he's straining his eyes to just even look at the screen, and that's what happens most of the time. And before you know, it begins to bring up a lot of health issues. So, in as much as digital learning is good, we embrace it, but we must all find a balance. Don't find a balance, abuse will be done. So once a quote said, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. Once the purpose is not defined, once it is not used in the right way, it begins to tend towards the negative point. Okay, so if you're saying, how do I now choose the best digital tool for my child? As a teacher, how do I choose the best digital tool for my learners that it's not going to affect them, or it's not going to replace hands-on learning, but it's going to blend it for me? Number one, control of error. What does that mean? Self-correction. If a child is working on a tablet, for example, and is trying to reinforce the concept letter A, now this particular app should be able to correct itself if the child makes a mistake, and the child should be able to see that he has made a mistake without necessarily coming to meet you. That is what control of error. So what it means is that, okay, if I have a tracing app, for example, I want to trace letter A, and maybe as the child is tracing the letter A, it's not giving the child a thumbs up or a good. The child is able to correct itself that, no, this tracing that I'm tracing is not correct. So the child should be able to follow the pattern to trace in such a way that once he does it well, that particular app scrutinizes and say, okay, yes, you've done a good job, right? So whatever digital tool we are picking should have what we call control of error or self-correction. Number two, it should move from concrete to abstract learning. So what that means is that in as much as we are picking a digital tool, it should move from a tangible experience that's concrete to an abstract learning. It should move from concrete to abstract. That means the child should be able to relate with what he's seeing on the screen or what he's working on the screen. It should move from concrete to abstract. Number three, self-paced learning. This platform should enable children to progress at their own pace. Very, very important. At their own pace. The child should be, if the child is working with a particular number, reinforcement should be made until the child has gotten that point before we move to the next point. Minimal distraction. Sometimes there are some apps that, maybe at every point there's always a noise or a sound, maybe a thumbs up or you did good kind of thing. But yes, in as much as those things are good, but we should try to find the one that minimizes distraction. There should not be so much distraction because children are easily distracted. That's just the main point. So if you are going to be picking a digital tool for a child or an app for a child, please look for one that has the ability to minimize distraction, that the child is not going to be easily distracted while working. Because once the child is distracted, maybe by the sound that the app makes, it's going to distract the child from the main purpose of that thing. So animations, rewards that are not really necessary during the learning process should be avoided. Or maybe as parents, we can mute the sound while the child is learning. We can mute the sound of the app or something, just to be able to minimize the distraction. Now, lastly, we have active engagement. We have active engagement over passive consumption. Now, digital tools should encourage interaction and creativity instead of just staring at the screen. Let the child be engaged. Let the child be doing something. If it's coloring, let the child be coloring on the screen. If it's tracing, let the child be tracing. You shouldn't just be staring at the screen for almost like how many hours without doing anything. So when we are picking or selecting a digital tool for our children, we should select a tool that have active engagement, right? The child is able to be engaged in that lesson. All right, so these are some of the principles we can adopt when we are selecting digital tool for our children. So we have some examples of some digital tools. Number one, we have educational apps. So we can check out ABC Mouse, Khan Academy Kids. We also have Duolingo for learning languages. So we can explore some of these educational apps and see how they can be useful to us. Remember the principles in selecting. Let us apply these principles when we are selecting a particular digital tool. Number two, we also have interactive games. We have for phonics. Phonics is for letters recognition, word building, sentence building. We also have for reading skill. Then we also have number matching. We also have some games that helps to reinforce number matching. Maybe your child is learning numbers, maybe it's learning addition, it's learning subtraction, it's learning division and the rest. We also have some apps, so you can just check this out and see. We also have digital storytelling. We have audiobooks. When we have audiobooks, we can easily download simple storybooks that the child can learn. And I just want to chip this in. When we are looking for storybooks, this is a mistake some parents make. Your child is still learning, let me say, 3-letter words, simple sight words. The child is still learning how to blend words. And then when we now want to get a storybook or download a storybook, audiobook for the child, we now begin to get the ones that the letters are, big, too big, that the child now has to come and be meeting us every time because the child cannot pronounce it. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't get such interesting books. There are some books that are good, the child might not be able to read it, but we as teachers or parents, we can read to them. In fact, reading to children is very, very good. In fact, it is encouraged. Let us learn to read to our children. It helps to improve their vocabulary skill. It helps also bring a forum of communication between parents and children or between teachers and children. So let us cultivate the habit of always reading to them. It's very important. But if we want to get a book that we want them to read themselves, we want to improve their reading skill, then we should know the stage the child is. Okay, this child is still learning 3-letter words. So we must look for a book that have these words that the child can easily work with. So when we are downloading ebooks, we should put that in consideration. Then we also have virtual field trips. Online experience provide exposure to places and cultures far beyond the classroom. Like the one I gave us an example when we were taught how to teach cultures to children. We can also have pictures online of traditions, of dances, of different cultures. This will help to improve even the vocabulary of that particular child. So we can explore any of all these tools and see which one best fits for our child or for our children. Okay, so I decided to bring up a practical strategy for balancing digital learning and hands-on learning. Now, I'm going to be using an example, which is number matching. Now, what is number matching? If I have a child, for example, and then this my particular child is learning numbers 1 to 5. Now, how do I blend the hands-on learning number 1 to 5 with digital learning? So how do I do it? Now, number one, blended learning approach helps to combine digital tools with hands-on learning. Time management, we should always set screen time limits. Parents and educators' involvement, we should guide responsibly. That means we should not just leave it to the child. I'm going to come back to this slide. Now let's look at this my case study, number matching with digital reinforcement. Now, what's the hands-on learning objects? We have the number cards and then we have counters. So let's say my child is learning number 1 to 5. I can get counters, or I can get marbles, or I can get stones, depending on what material I can find as easy as possible that can be used. And then maybe I lay the cards number 1 to 5 on the table, and then I ask the child to use the counters to count, like number 1, put 1 counter, number 2, put 2 counters. This is an hands-on activity, so the child is engaged with that. Now, how do I now reinforce? Remember, digital tools help reinforce what has already been done with the hands-on learning. So how do I now reinforce using my digital tools? So I might need a computer, I might need a tablet with a matching app. So what that means is that I will look for an app, I will download an app that help reinforce number counting, because that's what the child is doing. The child is counting, and the child is counting from number 1 to 5. So I'm going to get a tab and download the what's it called now? The app. I'll download the app that will help to reinforce that particular activity that the child is doing. So I can now give the child the tablet with the laid out cards by the side. Remember, the child has already done that. Then you give the child a tablet. Okay, number 1, maybe that particular app says count 5 strokes. Match, is these 5 strokes, is it to number 1? Is it to number 2? Is it to number 3? And then the child can easily look at what he has already done and match with his tab or computer. So this is a very good way of integrating the both of them. So using physical objects to verify digital mistakes. So if the child now makes a mistake, okay, the child can simply look at what he has done, the physical, activity, and check, okay, did I get it right and all. So we can always do that to be able to integrate both process. So as the child is doing this, let's take note of this previous slide. Now, the previous slide is talking about practical strategies for balancing learning. Number 1, combine digital tools with hands-on activity using the case study I gave. That's the number cards. Number 2, time management. So that means you can say, okay, you're going to do this, work on this app for, let's say, 20 minutes. I've already set a time management. But the child would have done the hands-on activity. Or you can say, oh, the child did a hands-on activity yesterday. Today he's going to work with the digital app. He can do that for about 20 minutes. You set a time management, you set a limit for that. Now, parental and educator involvement. What this means is that you don't just leave the child with the screen. No, you get involved. As the child is matching the numbers on the screen, you can tell the child, okay, can you compare, go back to the floor mat, let's see what you've done, compare it with what you are working with on the screen. Let there be an involvement so that there can be a balance. So guide to responsible tech use. There should always be a guide so that it can be able to reinforce what has already been taught. Conclusion. A balanced approach ensures holistic development. So what that means is that if there is a balance between digital tool and hands-on learning, it gives rise to holistic development. We can't do away with technology. That's just the thing. We can't do away with it. But instead, we embrace it. And we use it effectively. So once there's a balance between the two of them, it ensures what? Holistic development. Now, looking at this screen, why I love this picture so much, the blocks that the child is working with is what is also on the screen. So you can see there's an integration between the two of them. There's an integration between the two. So that's very important. Number 2, technology enhances understanding but should not replace physical interaction. That is very, very important. In everything that we do, please, let's digital tools like the tablets, the computer, let's not replace hands-on learning. Let's just always find a way to balance up. Digital tools should reinforce and not replace hands-on learning. Very, very important, because hands-on learning is the best way children learn. Remember, the hands are pathway to human intelligence. Children are sensorial explorers. Children are kinesthetic learners. So when we blend these two, it gives us a holistic development. But digital should not replace the hands-on learning, but it should do what? There should be a balance. Keynotes. Digital innovations should serve as reinforcement rather than replacement for hands-on learning. Technology can enhance understanding and engagement, but it should never replace the fundamental experience that comes from direct interaction with the physical world. A well-balanced approach ensures that children benefit from both the tactile richness of hands-on learning and the dynamic possibilities of digital tools. So, thank you so much. We've come to the end of this training. I don't know if you have any question or contribution that would like to give. If you have a question or a contribution, I would like to hear us, or if there's anything that you don't understand. Is there any question? We can unmute ourselves and speak if there is any question for us. Okay, let me see if we have a message here. Okay, we don't have any question. I can't hear you. Hope you heard me. The message came earlier and I didn't even check it out. Hope you had all our training. Mr. Opefa, I hope you heard us. Thank you so much. Okay, so I have a question for us. This is more of a conversation, more. So, would you rather have a child who knows how to draw, or one who is good in coding and programming? Would you rather have a child who is good with artwork, like drawing and the rest, or a child who is good with coding and programming? So please, I'd like to hear our inputs. Okay, so I'll just drop it on the, maybe we don't want to answer now. I'll drop the question after the meeting. We can always engage and then give our feedback about the training. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it wasn't a waste of time. Thank you so much. Miss Helen.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. So good to have you here.
Do I join late?
Okay. I hope you're able to.
As regards your question, I won't choose any because I'd rather have a child who have passion for whichever field he or she would choose.
Oh, nice.
The driving force for that child, not whether he's drawing or into coding and programming. Whichever one the child chooses, there should be passion for it. That's what's important for me.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much. So can you give us like a take home from everything we spoke about today? Just like a take home, something that struck you very important in the lesson.
All right. I would say when you said, there's this saying that the staff in my school said he doesn't believe in AI, technology, and all that. But then they said something that there should be a balance between technology and hands-on. Meaning technology is not coming to replace the place of interaction between the learner and the teacher. But it's only rather coming to increase or enhance the learning. So there should be a balance. So I learned that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining in. I don't know, do anybody else want to give like a reaction to our question? She said that passion, whatever one the child is passionate about, she's ready to support, whether it's in drawing or it's in coding and programming, whatever it is, she's ready to support that child as long as the child has passion and interest for it. And that's very, very good. Do we have any other? Right. So thank you so much. This has been a wonderful experience for me and also for us. I want to say thank you for joining. There's going to be so many more. Hope to see you and to see others also. So you can follow us up on our LinkedIn. You can follow us on our Instagram, our Facebook, at Olive Grove Educational Consult. So I want to say a very, very big thank you. Thank you for your time. I'm sure this time has not been wasted. So enjoy your afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Bye.